What about the role of George Washington in the ratification debate?
George Washington was, he is one of the reasons that the convention worked. It was held in secrecy. Now, Article 1, Section 5, Clause 3 of our Constitution can't be in secret. But he was such an uninterested leader. Everybody respected him. Everybody trusted in George Washington. They even left the Constitution vague because they felt that George Washington would fill those holes as time went on. So we needed George Washington at the convention to give it legitimacy.
Furthermore, because it was expected that George Washington would become the president after the Constitution, he offered Edmund Randolph a position in the government under the new Constitution, and thus when it came to ratification of the Constitution in Virginia, Edmund Randolph didn't really say anything and didn't debate against the Constitution, although he didn't really agree with it.
Also, George Washington gave Alexander Hamilton, he promised him a position in the future. Alexander Hamilton was kind of an extremist, so in order to quiet him down, he promised him a later position.
Does that mean he was offering them these positions to get their support for the Constitution? Is that what you're saying? Randolph and Hamilton?
Well, he wanted to not quiet Randolph, but to make sure that he didn't try to debate against the proposed Constitution, so it would be easier to ratify it.
Okay, thank you very much. Now is our chance to give you a little bit of feedback, which obviously, as you know by now. And can we start, Madeline? Can you start?
Certainly. I thought you had a very interesting opening to your statement, particularly starting off with Governor Perry's situation in Texas. I was fascinated by your references to specific Federalist Papers, including 46, 39, and I was very interested in your responses to the slavery issue. It was something that was debated quite heavily during the convention, and I just enjoyed your spirited responses to our questions.
I enjoyed it. I liked your opening statement. I was amused by your reference to New Jersey. We had one other class that had the same reference. They said, gave the vote to women. Nothing given to women. Women took this when the men folk made a mistake in their Constitution. They didn't say freeman, they said inhabitant. And the women jumped on that and took the right to vote if they had the proper qualifications. The men took it right back later on when they had another Constitution and put the word freeman in there. So it was no gift of expanding the electorate here. It was merely a mistake that, as I said, the women took advantage of it. Abigail Adams wished the same mistake had been made in the Constitution that her husband wrote in Massachusetts, but it wasn't. I like the reference to that Alexander had to federalism, and it's the wrong name for the party. And when we were talking about pseudonyms here, you had a lot that was right with pseudonyms. There were a couple other things that you could have mentioned with that. Anonymity was important, partly because they had some extracurricular activities that we don't have today, like dueling and caning. And so if you said some nasty things, you got personal, as they often did, you were happy to have that anonymity separating you from a challenge. There were times, however, when there was no anonymity. That is, someone got so used to using a pseudonym, they wanted their authorship to be known. So, for instance, Thomas Paine, when Common Sense was written in January of 1776, there was the thought maybe Adams wrote it, or maybe Franklin wrote it, or maybe Benjamin Rush wrote it. I wrote it, Thomas Paine said, and he wanted that to be known. Everything he wrote after that, he signs Common Sense, basically, because he wants credit for it. And there's some opposition to that, that is the etiquette of anonymity, which was there at the time. was broken when people solidified on one pseudonym for themselves. But the main idea was exactly what you said, that is to get the ideas across and not the personality. That was the primary motivation. And again, Alexander mentioned sometimes these names had a meaning. I mean, they chose Brutus for a reason as their name. They chose Sentinel, etc. They chose Farmer or whatever, an American. These names had resonance with them, and they wanted to get that across in the not just in the text of what they were writing, but also in the title. The image of George Washington, importantly, you said image. First president. Who else could have been the first president? Who else could have united the American people in this trial? Washington says it was an experiment in Republican government and with what dosage of liberty mankind could be trusted with. And he told Jefferson repeatedly, is what Jefferson says, he told me repeatedly, despite the fact that I felt Hamilton was a monarchist, he told me that he, Washington, would give the last drop of his blood for this experiment to be given a fair trial. And so he was the one. There was nobody else. James Flexner, Washington's biographer, 4 volumes, he has an abridgment volume in which he says Washington was the indispensable man. It's the title. And I think perhaps he was. Madison said at the end of the convention, there's only been one thing, one singular thing that separates us from all other revolutions that failed, and that's you. You being there, the people trusting you, that you will be able to lead us. So he was very important. Even though he didn't take part in the public debate, he didn't stand for the Virginia Convention. Still, people knew where he stood because he signed his name to the letter from the convention to the President of Congress. And every time that the Constitution was printed, that letter was there, signed by George Washington, endorsing the Constitution. You did a very, very good job.
Thank you.
I don't have a lot to add other than to echo how impressive you were. I was really struck by the references to Rick Perry and 10th Amendment and I guess, I don't know if you specifically mentioned it, but the threat to secede. And it does emphasize the currency of so many of these debates, and that we're Americans, and we're still arguing over the same things that we were arguing about 250 years ago, and they are every bit as important and as consequential today as they were, and you guys are no one better than to assume the mantle of this debate, because you guys, everybody has opinions, but it's one thing to have opinions, it's another to be able to back them up with facts and thought, and you very much did. You're very proud of yourself. It's a good way to end the day.
Thank you.